Hey, welcome back. There's been a lot of talk about our heroes in our society, in this country today. I read an article recently, maybe in the Los Angeles Times, following David Letterman's big scandal that's being played out night after night. By the way, his ratings are going through the ceiling. But they're making the point that look at all the people that seem to taint themselves, our sports heroes, supposed heroes that are involved in drug scandal after drug scandal, the movie stars. You have a hard time finding, look at the politicians, my gosh, the politicians have been such a disaster, even if they weren't in some kind of trouble in their personal life. They still, the lack of leadership in Washington and Baton Rouge, we've seen so much about the lack of leadership and the lack of people to look up to. Who are the role models for our kids? And I got thinking about this last week. I had a family member that was involved in a liver transplant, needed a liver transplant. And we fought this for weeks and months, and I knew nothing about transplants of any kind. I knew you transplanted kidneys and hearts. I'd read about it in the paper like most of you have, but never really had to get into the nuances and the nuts and bolts of a transplant. Well, now I do. I've become an expert. If any of you have a family member that needs a transplant, call me, because I know about the databases and where in the country it's easier to get a transplant than other parts of the country. In any event, I had experience with several doctors up in Shreveport, Louisiana, who delve in transplants, a very specified type of medical practice with a very small group of patients, and that becomes a consuming thing for them. In this particular case, with my family member, a liver was necessary, waited about 3 weeks, and finally were able to identify a liver. Now, what these doctors do, you're on a database for whatever organ you need, and when you think that there's an organ, in this case the liver was in Baton Rouge, the doctor himself gets on a plane and flies to Baton Rouge. He only has about a 16-hour window to where they can make a determination that the liver is healthy, fly it back to where it's located, and get the operation going, because it doesn't last any longer than that. And so the doctor involved, and I'll tell you his name, Dr. Robert McMillan is his name up in Shreveport, and he's in a team effort with another doctor up there, Dr. Gaza Zimbari. And the two of them performed a marvelous night of what I consider real heroism. What they did was this liver became available around midday, I believe. The doctor flies to Baton Rouge, gets the liver, brings it back on the plane, ices it all down, and brings it back on the airplane. And then when he comes in, he and the two doctors together do this very complicated, difficult procedure. This can take anywhere from 6 to 12 hours, depending on the patient and the complications involved. In this instance, it took 6.5 hours to transplant this liver, which they did successfully. Great bedside manner after they're under all this undue pressure. Now remember, this doctor's flown to Baton Rouge, spent all day coming back, putting the liver in. And I said, gosh, aren't you glad you can take a rest and go home? And he said, no, I've got 2 more to do before the night is over. At this point in time, it was maybe midnight. And the doctor still, this doctor team, Zabari and McMillan up in Shreveport, did 2 more transplants. I believe one was a kidney and one was a liver. Worked all night long, put in a 24-hour day. You want to talk about heroes? Those are the heroes to me. I know that Captain Scully did a great job of landing that plane in the Hudson River recently, and you can call him a hero. Got great admiration for the guy, but of course he had to land that plane to save his life. He reacted under great crises and put that plane down based on his years of experience. There wasn't any options for him, so I guess I'd call him a hero. Great admiration for him, not putting that down at all. But these doctors in the trenches who day after day, without much acknowledgement, go ahead and work 24-hour days doing 3 operations to save people's lives. And there's a number of medical professionals. I'm not just playing up on the surgeons. I go to my orthopedic doctor as people lined up to see him, and he's by himself in one room, and he's got maybe one assistant, and go through knee after knee and ankle after ankle. The internists who have to know so much. If you're an internist today, you got to know a little bit about everything. You're not a specialist, so you've got to know a little bit about orthopedic, and you got to know about the liver, you got to know about the head and the colds and swine flu and everything else under the sun, and it takes a tremendous amount of keeping up while I'm on the golf course and you and I are enjoying our families and doing a number of other pursuits. A good doctor is often at clinics, at seminars, studying up what he or she should be doing to take care of us. I don't downplay the sports heroes. I don't downplay Captain Scully, great guy, reacted wonderfully under pressure. Don't downplay so many other personalities. But there's something very special about our medical professionals who spend years as an intern. I got a neighbor who's interning in the transplants right now, and she is maybe 28 years old. She's in her third year of residency after getting out of medical school and getting a profession of maybe being a professional surgeon, maybe spending 6 years in the study. Now she spends 5 more years as an intern in a residency, working 12 to 15 hours a day. And I mean, she was there. I saw this young lady there 7 days a week when I was working. To me, those are the great heroes in our country today. By the way, one of my heroes is Dr. Carl Lukart, who takes care of me and my heart. And if you look on my website at jimbrownla.com, you'll see a picture of Dr. Lukart and I. I was a little out of breath and kind of feeling a little tired and went and had a treadmill test. Did pretty well for an old guy. He says, I got the heart of a 35, 40-year-old. That was good news for me. You'll see a picture of Dr. Lukart, who works weekends, days and nights, patient after patient, keeping it alive, great bedside manner, staying tuned with all the current efforts and activities. Those, to me, are the real heroes in this country today. So I salute Dr. McMillan, Dr. Zimbari, Dr. Lukart, Dr. Kader, my internist, and all my doctors and your doctors for the really outstanding job they do in taking care of all of us. Come back to you right after this message.